Xin được trân trọng chào mừng tất cả các anh chị đã đến với buổi hội thảo trực tuyến ngày hôm nay. Và đầu tiên thì cảm ơn tất cả các anh chị đã dành thời gian để tham gia vào buổi hội thảo trực tuyến ngày hôm nay. Tôi là Mai Phương đến từ tổ chức đào tạo Smart Train và lời đầu tiên thay mặt cho ban tổ chức là tổ chức đào tạo Smart Train và Hiệp hội Kế toán Quản trị Hoa Kỳ CMA xin được gửi tới các anh chị lời chào và lời chúc sức khỏe. Như các anh chị đã biết thì chương trình học CMA luôn được cập nhật và thay đổi để phù hợp với nhu cầu của ngành, cũng như thúc đẩy những thông lệ tốt nhất về kế toán quản trị trên toàn thế giới. Theo đó, các tài liệu học CMA, nhất là tài liệu của phiên bản năm 2021, đã có rất nhiều thay đổi, đòi hỏi việc học và ôn thi lấy chứng chỉ CMA cần phải được cập nhật để tăng cường khả năng thi đỗ của học viên. Và để nhằm giúp cho học viên tự tin vượt qua kỳ thi CMA với kết quả tốt nhất, buổi tối ngày hôm nay, Smart Train rất hân hạnh được tổ chức buổi hội thảo trực tuyến cùng với Hiệp hội Kế toán Quản trị Hoa Kỳ IMA với chủ đề CMA Exam Test Taking Tips and Strategy. Và có thể nhiều anh chị tham gia buổi hội thảo ngày hôm nay đều đã biết chúng tôi Smart Train rất hân hạnh được là đối tác đầu tiên tại Việt Nam được Hiệp hội Kế toán Quản trị Hoa Kỳ IMA cấp ủy quyền đào tạo từ năm 2010. Và buổi chia sẻ tối nay cũng là một cơ hội đặc biệt để các anh chị được lắng nghe và giao lưu đặt câu hỏi trực tiếp với diễn giả từ IMA Hoa Kỳ. Do vậy thì ngôn ngữ chính của buổi hội thảo ngày hôm nay sẽ là bằng tiếng Anh. Nhưng nếu như các chị đang lo lắng về việc kỹ năng giao tiếp bằng tiếng Anh của mình chưa tốt và mình chưa có thể hiểu được hết tất cả những phần chia sẻ của diễn giả ngày hôm nay thì các chị cũng đừng quá lo lắng. Sau cuối buổi hội thảo ngày hôm nay thì các anh chị hãy liên lạc với đại diện của Smart Train để chúng tôi có thể được hỗ trợ các anh chị tốt nhất. Và bây giờ thì tôi xin được chuyển sang phần chính của buổi hội thảo ngày hôm nay. In tonight's webinar, it is our great pleasure to introduce Ms. Lisa Beaudoin, the IMA's Senior Director of Business Development. Prior to joining IMA, she was the Accounting Department Chair at Clear University in Michigan. Earlier in her career, Lisa held various accounting and financial management positions at Ford Motor Company, Ford Credit, and IBM Corporation. She holds a bachelor's degree from the University of Michigan, an MBA from the University of San Diego, and recently earned the Executive Certificate in Non-Profit Management from Northwestern University's School of Management. And now, everyone, please warmly welcome Lisa for her presentation. Lisa, to you, please.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here today, and thank you all for joining me for this session. I'm going to be explaining to you some test-taking tips and strategies for the CMA exam. And I also will be talking to you about the CMA exam because I know that some of you are still considering the CMA and others are already ready to go sit for the exam. So let me bring up my slide deck here. Okay, can you see the slides?
Yes, we can see the slide clearly, but Lisa, can you please be mindful that not all of our students are very good at English and communication. So can you please speak slowly? Thank you.
Yes, of course. So it's a pleasure to be with you today. My name is Lisa Beaudoin. I'm Senior Director of Business Development, as I was already mentioned. I started my career working in accounting and finance positions with IBM and Ford Motor Company, and I've also worked in academia. So I am very pleased to be able to share with you details about the CMA exam and about the test-taking tips and strategies. This is what we'll be covering today: why you should become a CMA, for those of you who are still considering it, starting the certification process. We'll go over the exam structure because it's always important when you're going to sit for an exam to really understand what's being tested, how is the exam structured. We will cover some study tips, and then I'll also share some exam tips and strategies. And those are things like how to manage your time when you're at the testing center, what to expect when you go to a testing center. And then finally, we'll talk about the steps to become a CMA. So the CMA is a very relevant and rigorous professional certification. It's been around for almost 50 years now, and we have tens of thousands of CMAs all around the world who hold this prestigious credential. The CMA focuses on the critical skill set that is needed for someone who's working in an accounting and financial management role in business. Things like planning, analysis, internal controls and risk management, decision support, so supporting business decisions with data. So it's a very relevant and rigorous certification. And every year IMA conducts its salary survey, and it continues to show that people who hold the CMA certification earn more than their non-certified peers. So it's important to earn a certification for many reasons. You have greater earning potential, greater confidence in your skills, and it can really help to advance you in your career. This is a quick overview of the fees associated with earning the CMA, joining IMA, entering the CMA program, and sitting for the exam. So these are all in US dollars. I assume many of you are probably familiar with these fees already. This is the CMA exam. I'll just go over it briefly because I know some of you have been studying for the exam, but remember it's a two-part exam, part 1 and part 2. They each have 6 sections underneath them. And these exams are administered at Prometric testing centers around the world. So they are computer-based exams, and they include both multiple choice questions as well as essay questions. They're looking to see that you can understand the multiple choice questions and analyze the situations and answer the questions, but also for the essay scenarios, they're like mini cases. So a business situation that you're analyzing, there might be a lot of different information. You have to determine what's relevant and what to the decision, and then communicate out a response. So both multiple choice and essay questions. Now, part 1 is called Financial Planning, Performance, and Analytics. It includes your financial accounting in the very first section on external financial reporting decisions. And then the next 3 sections, planning, budgeting, and forecasting, performance management, cost management. These are things that I did a lot of at both Ford Motor Company and IBM. Working through the annual budget process, reporting out on how the company is doing for internal reporting. How is a certain business line doing or a certain product doing? Controlling costs. Internal controls is also tested here, as is technology and analytics. Technology and analytics was added to the exam in 2020, just a little over a year ago, because we know that the finance and accounting team is expected to be using technology to transform the finance function. Part 2, Strategic Financial Management, starts with a section on financial statement analysis, understanding profitability ratios, liquidity ratios, turnover ratios, but also calculating and then interpreting them. What does it mean for our business? How are we trending over time? How do we compare to our competitors? Corporate finance covers different financial instruments, as well as risk and return models. Decision analysis, that focuses on the company's cost structure, variable and fixed costs, and the number of units or customers that it serves, and performing sensitivity analysis to see if we change, say, our fixed costs or our variable costs, how will that impact our profits? Risk management is enterprise risk management. It's a very important topic for all businesses to identify both internal and external risks to their company, to determine how can we put strategies in place to reduce our risk exposure or to avoid risks completely. Investment decisions is capital budgeting. How do we invest for our company today so that we have a positive return in the future? And that's where we use methodologies like net present value or internal rate of return. And finally, professional ethics. Ethics is so important to IMA and so important to the profession. And so we test on professional ethics in that section of the exam. So again, a 2-part exam, all computer-based. I can tell you that when I show this body of knowledge for the exam content to leaders in accounting and finance roles, they look at it and they say, I need people with this skill set. These are all very, very relevant and very important skills and competencies for the finance and accounting team. So let's talk a little bit about some study tips. It's really important that you establish a regular study schedule. This is a very rigorous exam, and there's a lot of content. So when you are preparing for the exam, you want to set aside time for yourself to study. And that is in addition to the time that you will spend in class at Smart Train. So you want to maybe even schedule it into your week, determine which days of the week you're going to block time. This is when I'm going to study for the CMA exam. It often helps to really put together a study plan for yourself and block it on your calendar. Let people know this is the time when I'm going to study for the CMA. One thing I wanted to mention too on the third bullet point is that a lot of times when you are studying on your own, it's very easy to continue to study topics that you are really good at. So let's say that I am really good at budgeting, for example. I'll just keep doing budgeting problems over and over because I get them right. And it makes me feel good that I'm getting them right. Well, at a certain point, it's time to stop studying budgeting and to move on to other topics, perhaps topics that I'm not as good at, that I need to spend more time studying. So make sure that you push yourself to study beyond just what you're comfortable with, right? Because you're going to get all different types of questions on the exam, and you want to be prepared for them. I do recommend that you create your own flashcards with formulas or terms. So I know for myself, when I've studied for exams, it really helps me to, listen to the lecture or read the book, but then also to write things in my own words, to write it out. And then sometimes I'll even take what I've written, handwritten, I'll type it up. Repetition, it enhances the learning process. You remember things more if you write them in your own words and create your own notes and flashcards. Okay, there we go. So I do recommend that you use exam prep materials to study. So the ones that you are in your class at Smart Train are very thorough, very comprehensive. Make sure that you're working with those retired exam questions. So your materials doing test bank, and those are similar to the questions that you will see on the CMA exam. So you want to make sure you're spending time going through those sample exam questions, preparing yourselves for the types of questions you will see on the exam. My second point here is to make sure that you completely understand the concepts that you're studying. And what do I mean by that? Well, sometimes when you're using prep materials and you are going through the test bank, if you spend a lot of time in the test bank, after a while, you'll start to recognize some of the questions, and you'll see this question about, say, ABC company, and they want you to calculate the break-even rate, and you already know before you read it, oh, I know the answer is 10 because I've seen this problem so many times. So you don't want to memorize the questions that are in the test bank. You want to make sure that you really understand that break-even problem for ABC company, and that you know how to calculate break even from a variety of different ways, because you might see a problem on the actual CMA exam that is similar, but not exactly the same as what you studied in the preparation materials. So make sure that you take the time to really understand the problems, so that if you got one that came on the actual exam that was a little bit different, you'd still be able to solve it correctly. Remember that preparing for this exam takes time. Like I mentioned before, determine if you're going to create a schedule where you say every Saturday I'm going to study for 2 hours at this time, or every Tuesday, Thursday, whatever day works for you, but create a schedule for yourself. And how much time you need to prepare, it's going to vary depending on you, depending on your experience, your knowledge of this material, if you've studied it before or not. Also, how efficient you are at studying. Some of you, if you've been students recently, say at the university, you're used to studying. If you haven't been in school for a while, it takes some time to become efficient at studying again. So the number of hours you will spend, it's going to vary from person to person. So let's talk then about preparation options. You can use the exam support package, but it is not it's not a complete study package. It's really just something to gauge your knowledge. You can use it just to see where am I strong, what do I know well, where do I have weaknesses or gaps, where do I need to focus my studies. And I know Smart Train offers some really great courses to prepare you for the CMA. So I encourage you to look into the options provided by them. And I do want to also make you aware of the CMA handbook. This is a really good resource for CMA candidates. It includes a lot of the information that I'm covering today, but in a handbook. And you can find it on the IMA website by going to our imanet.org and then under CMA certification, clicking on Getting Started. If you scroll down, you'll see a link to download a PDF version of the CMA handbook. So CMA exams, as I mentioned earlier, are administered at Prometric testing centers. They're conveniently located all around the world. You do schedule your exam date and time online after you pay for your exam authorization on the IMA website. So all payments are made through the IMA website, but then they'll send you information on how to schedule your exam at your local Prometric testing center. Now, there are 3 exam testing windows offered each year: January and February, May and June, and September and October. Due to COVID, we have tried to make things as convenient as possible for our CMA candidates and our members. So the May-June testing window, which we are currently in, it actually started on April 1st, and it has been extended until July 14th. So we've tried to provide a little extra flexibility just this year. But the months listed here are the normal testing windows: January, February, May and June, and September and October. So I want to talk a little bit about what to expect when you go to the testing center. And the first thing I want to tell you is you want to arrive early. So if your appointment is at 11 o'clock in the morning, let's say, just for example, I would tell you arrive at least by 10:30. At least you're then there at the testing center. You're not nervous that you're running late or anything like that. And you can sort of, try to relax a little bit, try to, maybe review a few of your last minute notes or something, but try to arrive early. There is a personal identification requirement. It is either a valid, meaning not expired, passport that can be by itself, or if you don't have a passport, you can bring 2 other original forms of identification, and one must have a photograph. Both of them have to have your signature. So perhaps you have a government identification card of some sort, driver's license, something like that. That would be acceptable. Remember, one has to have a picture and the other it has to at least have your signature on it. They do not accept student identification cards or social security cards. That's probably a US thing, the social security cards. Small lockers are available for personal storage. So what happens is you come in, you check in with the testing center administrator, and then they will give you a locker. So you get a key to a small locker where you can put, say, a purse, wallet, perhaps you have a jacket that you don't want to take in with you, any type of personal information you need to leave there, okay? I do advise that you wear comfortable clothes so that you're just very comfortable while you're working through the exam, because you'll be a little bit nervous, right? That's expected. And you don't want, clothing to be too hot, too cold, or something like that. One other thing I wanted to mention about arriving early. So that's important, but also make sure you know where the testing center is located. Maybe take a trip over there a week before, just to see, oh, here's where it is. You don't want to be getting lost on the day of the test itself, right? So you want to make sure you know how to get to the testing center. Once you get checked in and you are led over to take the exam, the proctor at the exam, or the person who is in charge of helping you get set up on the exam, will sit you down at a modular testing booth. So what this is it's like three-sided. So imagine, a cubicle where you have a wall in front of you and on both sides of you. And you'll have plenty of workspace and lighting. And especially now due to COVID, you aren't going to have people close to you or in the next cubicle over, right? During normal times you could have, and that might have created a distraction for you. So one good thing from COVID is that you will be separated from the other people taking exams at the testing center. Now, there is a calculator policy for the CMA exam. This is covered in that CMA handbook that I referenced earlier. These are the calculators that you can take to the CMA exam. You can either take a very basic 6-function model. That's one that I have. Mine is solar operated. It could also be a battery operated one. Or if you prefer to use a financial calculator, these are the exact models. You have to have one of these models. So there are some Hewlett-Packard models that you see here, as well as a Texas Instruments model. So use a calculator, first of all, that you are very comfortable using. Use the same calculator to study that you are going to take to the exam, because if any of you use a financial calculator, you know that there's special functions. You need to know how to use that calculator. You don't want to be learning how to use it during the exam, right? So you'll be fine if you use the simple 6-function calculator, but if you prefer a financial calculator, make sure it is one of the models listed here, and make sure that you are very comfortable using it. Also, when you check in with the proctor for the exam, you will be given a stack of scrap paper. That's for you to, make calculations or write down things, and you'll be given pencils. You cannot bring your own pencils. You cannot bring your own paper. That will be given to you. I know for scrap paper, you are usually given 10 sheets of scrap paper. And what I've been told from the candidates is that it usually doesn't have lines. It's usually blank, but it might be a pastel color like pink or light green or something. So it's going to be stapled together. And that's where you're going to, write down different notes, or when you are calculating something for problem 10, you're going to, use this paper to make your calculations. One thing I will tell you is that you should try to be neat with your scrap paper. So by that, I mean, let's say that problem number 2 on the multiple choice requires some calculations. I would recommend that you take your pencil and write problem 2, and then write out your calculations, and then maybe even put a box around it when you're done. That way, if you want to go back later and check your work for problem number 2, it will be easy for you to find that. So you can quickly refer to it, say, yes, I got that right. I'm going to go on to the next one. So try to be neat with your scrap paper so that you can refer back to it if you decide to review that question. Also, when the proctor takes you over to your desk and your cubicle to start the exam, what they will do is they have to log you in and verify that you are taking this CMA exam. And then they'll say, okay, you're ready to start the tutorial. The tutorial is 15 minutes of time before your exam starts. It's not part of the 4-hour exam, but this is time when you can they want you to make sure you know how to work through, manage the testing system. It's basically just click here to go forward to the next problem, click here to go back to the next problem. I'm going to show you a screenshot, but it's pretty basic, and it's going to be very similar to the testing system that you've been using to study for the CMA exam. So it's going to be very familiar to you. What I recommend, though, is during this 15 minutes of tutorial time, that you use that time to sort of take a deep breath, relax a bit, and also write down any formulas or definitions on your scrap paper. So you've got your pencil and paper. Write down some things that are in your short-term memory. Oh, I need to remember that formula. If you're taking the Part 2 exam, you have some financial ratios that you have memorized. Write those down. Might make you feel a little more confident that I can refer to that in the exam. I can get it out of my short-term memory and have it to refer to. So, and then take a deep breath, and then either you can go through the full 15 minutes of the tutorial, wait for that to end, and then you'll start the exam. Or if you're done in 10 minutes, you can also say, I'm ready to start, and be very obvious to start the exam. Then you'll just click on something and it will start. And that's when your 4 hours for the exam will begin. I do want to mention, though, that there's no food or drink allowed when you're in taking the exam. That also includes just a glass of water or a bottle of water. You cannot take those, have anything there with you. You cannot have even like a hard candy or a cough drop or chewing gum. You cannot have those, okay? So be prepared for that. I also want to mention this, very important, it's a 4-hour exam. There are bathroom breaks allowed. You can go and go to the bathroom. However, you will be using up your exam time. So remember, you have 4 hours. If you have to go to the bathroom, what you have to do is get the proctor to come over to log you out. You can't just get up and come and go. They have to come and end your session, temporarily end your session. You go to the bathroom, you come back, you have to have the proctor again come to log you back in and then start, and you've lost all of that time. You also have to keep in mind, if the testing center is busy or understaffed, the proctor might not be available right away to log you back in. Do whatever you can so that you do not break. If that means drinking less coffee or whatever, drinking less before you take the exam, you need to do that, okay? Make sure that, try to plan so that you do not have to take a bathroom break. I also wanted to metric, they try to maintain standards the same. So some of the things that they're doing to protect the integrity of their testing centers and our exam is there is a fingerprinting requirement when you check in, and they also use a medical detector wand. They want to make sure that people don't have anything that would allow them to cheat on, empty out your pockets, make sure you don't have any, slips of paper with formulas and things like that. They're trying to maintain the integrity, though, of the testing center and the process. So let's talk a little bit about exam strategy. When you think about preparing for an exam, you really need you need to have confidence in yourself, and you need to have effective time management, and that third one, a lot of people don't think about, but you have to effectively manage your time during the exam, because if you know all of the material and feel really confident about your abilities, but you spend all your time on one question, that is not going to work, right? You have to manage your time well. So let's talk about some different strategies here. First of all, we'll start with the multiple choice portion of the exam. We recommend that when you are looking at a multiple choice question, by the way, there will always be 4 possible responses to choose from. We recommend that you answer a question in your mind before you look at answer options. So if it's asking you for a definition or even for a calculation, we recommend that you first look at the answers and then say, oh, you know what? You write down and you figure out which one you think is the right answer. And then when you look at them and you see that they have listed your answer, you'll be very happy, right? That it's actually showing up there. So rather than looking at all the answers first, try to answer the question first and then look to see if your answer is one of the ones listed there. We also recommend that you pay close attention to the wording of each question. I know sometimes when I'm nervous, I'll read something quickly and I'll miss a very important word. So look for important words like except, least, most, because these could be they could really change the meaning of the question. So try to slow down and read each question very thoroughly. Now, here's an important strategy that I'd like to share with you. It's called we just call it a 3-pass technique for the multiple choice section. So remember, you have 100 multiple choice questions, right? And you're going to have up to 3 hours to answer those 100 questions. Your strategy needs to ensure that you will see all 100 questions. You cannot go into the multiple choice and go in and your 3 hours are done and you've only seen 70 questions. The last 30 questions may have been the easiest questions on the exam, but you'll never know because you didn't get there. So your strategy has to ensure that you will see all of the questions at least once. So here's what we recommend. You're starting off the multiple choice section of the exam, so beginning of the exam. We recommend that you go through, and when there are questions that are only conceptual questions, no computations, no calculations required, we recommend that you go through and try to answer all of those. Those are like the quick questions that you can just read through. Okay, that's the answer. I don't have to do any calculations. I don't need my calculator. So go through all 100 and answer those that do not require any calculations. You can mark or flag the questions that you are not answering. That way, anything that you don't answer, if you put a flag by it, it goes into a separate bin, a separate category. So now you're going to go back and you're going to look at all of the questions that you flagged, the ones that required calculations. And you'll go through those, and you can even say, my next pass through, my next time through, I'm going to just answer the questions that require a quick calculation, maybe 1 or 2 calculations, and I'm going to work through those questions and leave the other ones marked, the ones that are lengthier, longer questions. And then the third time through, you could come back and just spend time on the questions that are more complex, more difficult, require more time from you. Okay, so I recommend that you use this approach when you are doing exam simulations online. When you go to do an actual 100 question multiple choice practice test, try to use this strategy. So you want to make sure that you see all 100 questions at least once, and some of them you're going to see more than once, right? And you're going to do the shortest questions, the ones that require the shortest amount of time first, and then the questions that require a few calculations, and then finally the ones that require multiple steps or calculations. That way, you're sort of saving up time. You're going through the first questions very quickly, and you're saving up some extra time that you can use for those longer questions. So let's also talk about some other strategies as you're going through the multiple choice questions. The first recommendation here is that you answer all of the multiple choice questions. Do not leave anything blank. Let's say even you're getting near the end and you are in this one problem and all you can do is eliminate 2. So there's 2 options left. At that point, just choose one. Guess between those 2. What is the correct answer? Don't leave anything blank. Sometimes on other exams, they will give you a little penalty. So a negative 0.1 or negative 0.2 if you guess and get the answer wrong. We do not do that. You either get full credit for the answer if you get it right, or 0 credit if you get it wrong. So you want to at least guess so that you can increase your chances of getting some points on those questions that you find very challenging. So as I was explaining on the last slide with the 3-pass technique, you want to make sure that you don't spend too much time on one question. That's why you want to go in with a strategy to see all of the questions. On average, for the 3 hours with 100 questions, you have only about 1.5 minutes to spend on each question. But with the strategy that I explained, you'll be able to get through some of those shorter questions in much less than a minute and a half, and then you'll have more time to spend on the more complicated questions. Now, we talked about confidence. Try to stay positive during the exam. Tell yourself, I've studied hard. I can do this. I know I can pass. Negative thoughts don't belong here. They will not help you. When you have completed the 100 questions, you can go back and review the questions, make corrections, go back to some of those more difficult questions. Remember, if you've been really neat in how you've noted your noted things on your scrap paper, it'll be really easy to refer back to problem number 10, for example, to see, oh, did I do that right? Oh, yes, it's all good. I like that answer. Or, oh, wait, I made a mistake. I'm going to change my response. The exam is 4 hours in length total. You have up to 3 hours to complete the multiple choice section of the exam. You start with the multiple choice question exam always. And there's two scenarios here. Either you use the full 3 hours for the multiple choice, and then you will automatically move into the essay portion of the exam. Or if you finish the multiple choice 100 questions before the 3 hours are over, then you can carry forward any of your unused time. So let's say you finish the multiple choice section 10 minutes early. You will then be able to take that extra 10 minutes and use it on the essay portion of the exam. So that's nice that you'll have a little extra time for that section of the exam. I will tell you though that most people do not finish the multiple choice section very early. If they do, it's just a few minutes. It really does take a lot of time to go through those 100 questions. So let's take a look at a screenshot from Prometric. So I'm not going to do the problem, of course, here, but I just want you to be able to see what it looks like. And I'm sure this looks a lot like the practice test that you're doing with your CMA review materials. So you see here, this is a multiple choice problem, and it's showing you how much time is remaining, and it's asking you, here's a conceptual question, right? No calculations required. And all you would do is use your mouse to click on A, B, C, or D as your answer. And if you want to, if you choose, let's say A, I would just click on next down here in the lower right corner of the screen to go to the next problem. This was the first problem in the exam, so I can't actually click on back, but you get the point, right? You can go next or back to move forward or backward through the questions. And then you also see down here on the bottom, right next to the back menu button, you see a flag. Looks like a little flag. That is if you want to flag a question to return back to it. So if this were a really complicated question that required multiple steps, and it's my first time through, I would hit that flag button so that I could come back to it later. You also see that there's a calculator option on the screen right below the question. They do have an on-screen calculator. However, I do not recommend that you use that. You should bring your own calculator, bring one that meets the requirements as they're outlined in the CMA handbook, the calculator requirements that I showed earlier. Don't use the one that's on their screen. Okay, so let's talk now about the essay portion of the exam. A lot of people get really frightened by the essay portion of the exam, but I'm here to tell you that you should not be afraid of this portion of the exam. First of all, this section provides a great opportunity to earn partial credit. And what do I mean by that? Well, in the multiple choice section of the exam, when you click on, say, B as the correct answer, you either get it right or you get it wrong. There's no, oh, it's sort of right? You can't get partial credit for it. It's either all right or all wrong. But in the essay portion of the exam, you can get partial credit. Like if they're asking you to calculate something, as long as you show your calculations, they might, even if your end result is incorrect, they might see that, wait, this person was following the right steps, so I can give them partial credit. They had the first part correct, but it was just the end that they got wrong. So they can give you partial credit. That's a good thing, but it's really important that you show your work and your assumptions. So I'm assuming that, the fixed cost will stay the same through this range. And here is what I've calculated for break even. And then you show, this number divided by that number gives me the answer. So if you show those things and document them, then the grader can give you points, even if you don't get the answer completely right. Now, if you don't write down how you calculated a number and you just put down my answer is 100 and the answer was something else, they can't give you any points at all. So try to think like the grader so that you can earn some partial credit. Remember that there are 2 essay problems, and each of them can have 4 to 7 questions. So that means that you could have between 8 and 14 questions. It sounds like a lot, but what they've done is they've broken these questions down so that they have a very defined response that they're looking for. So they don't say, do this and do that. Instead, each question is very direct and asks you for a specific response. Now, once you are done with the multiple choice section of the exam and you move into the essay section of the exam, first of all, there's no break allowed. But there's no, take a break, go get a drink of water. There's no break in the exam at all. But I do want to tell you that once you come into the essay portion of the exam, you can scroll through to look at the questions. So let's say I'm ready to start the essay portion of the exam. I want to see, what is question 1 about? Oh, it's about budgeting. Okay. What's question 2 about? Oh, it's more about internal controls. Okay. So I might then decide that I want to start with the second essay problem because I feel like I can get that one done quickly and then I'll have more time for the other one. So you can have a strategy there too. You can scroll between these scenarios, these problems, and the different questions. You might even write down some notes in your scrap paper as you're reading through. So you can just sort of become familiar with what is in the essay portion of the exam. And it might help you to determine how much time you need for the responses. Like I said, maybe I think the internal controls question will take me less time. So I'm going to do that one first, maybe, and then I'll come back to the other one. You can create your own strategy for the essay portion of the exam. Pay to the verbs, and by that I mean to compare this to that, or what are the differences. Don't just give the definition. Look really carefully at what is being asked of you so that you are giving the correct response. Also, read the question so that you really understand what they're looking for. And I know that this is probably the essay portion. I believe the exam creates a lot of anxiety for people who have English as their first language. So I can only imagine that for you, it's not your first language and that it will create a lot of anxiety. But for you, that we're just looking for standard English, that your thoughts are organized and that you are clear in what you're saying. So we're looking to see that you can clearly communicate your response. But if there's a slight grammar problem or there's some spelling issues, they're not going to mark you. Instead, they're looking to see, does this person understand the issue? Are they able to give a good response that is clear, that they've communicated it clearly, and I can understand it. So don't get too worried about spelling and about grammar. Do your best there, but just remember that they're just looking for it to be an organized response and that it's clear and that you're effectively writing your response. But if there are a few little errors, don't get too worried about that. Also, for your essay responses, try to be brief and right to the point. Don't feel you aren't going to get more points if you write a really long response. So this will actually be good for you, just to get right to the point. They ask you this and answer the question, and you can use bullet points. So I'm going to show you a screenshot of it, the essay portion of the exam in a few minutes here. They don't actually have the bullet point option like you have in Microsoft Word or in other word processing systems, but you can use like a dash, right? Like a hyphen to put down, key points. That is okay. It doesn't have to be in complete sentences. Don't leave any questions blank, just like in the multiple choice. Don't leave anything unanswered there. Don't leave anything blank here. If you're running out of time, at least write down a few points, bullet points, an outline of your response, because again, the grader could try to give you partial credit. And keep in mind that the graders, when they are reviewing your essay responses, they're trying to give you points. They're not trying to take them away. So what do I mean by that? Let's say that you are supposed to give, let's say four benefits, list 4 benefits of the budgeting process. I'm just making this up, okay? But 4 benefits of the budgeting process. You want to write down 4, and you might even write down a 5th one, because they're just looking to see, do you meet the 4? And as long as you have 4, you're going to get the full credit for that response. So they're looking to give you points. Did you answer with what the required answer sheet is telling them? If so, they will give you points. So make it as easy as possible for those graders to give you the points. They want to give you points. So write down what you're thinking, what your assumptions are, and they will try to give you as many points as possible. I'm going to show you the screenshot. You're going to be typing your responses for the essay questions into a text box. It's similar to Microsoft Word, but it's much less fancy. It's very simple in what you can do. So I'll show you that in a minute, but really important point here is be sure to use all of the time available to you. Don't leave early. When you're in the essay portion of the exam, that's the last part of the exam, you cannot go back to the multiple choice, so you'll be in the essay portion. Just go back and review your responses if you finish early. Go back and look to see, is there anything else I could have added here that would get me maybe some more points from the grader? So spend the entire 4 hours there. Don't leave early. Just keep reviewing through your responses to see if you think that they are clear, if you've said enough, if you could add some more, and so on. So here is a screenshot of the essay exam. Again, I'm not going to go through the scenario here, but on the left-hand side, you see the problem. Here's the issue, okay? And on the right side, you see where you can respond, and you will just type your response into the box there. And again, you can see there's no spell check. There is no formatting like bold or underline or italics. There are no special bullet points, so you would have to just use a hyphen like the subtraction sign, right? A little dash if you wanted to bullet point things. So you can see here, this is question 3, and it's the third question out of 6. You see how there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 there. 6 questions related to this scenario. And then you can use again the next and the back menu buttons that are in the lower right corner. There's also the flag button again. You also see that you have the time value tables and calculator. Again, I don't recommend that you use the online calculator, on-screen calculator, but that's what the essay portion of the exam will look like, okay? Let's talk now about test anxiety. First of all, everybody gets nervous about exams, okay? So that's normal, but try to take that anxiety and make it work in a positive way for you. Just focus on, doing your best. And remember that even if you don't do well on the first attempt, you can go sit for the exam again. If you're going through the exam and all of a sudden you forget how to do something, or sometimes people you just go blank, right? You're just nervous and you sort of can't remember something. Just flag that question, come back to it later. Once you start to answer some of the questions, you'll start to relax a little bit, you'll feel more confident, and you can come back to those questions, okay? But this is a very important point here on the bottom. Effective study and preparation is the best approach to reduce your anxiety and to improve your self-confidence on the day of the exam. So studying, preparing, and that's all going to make you feel more confident about your abilities when you go to the exam. So let's talk a little bit about the exam structure. So as I've already mentioned, 4 hours total. The first 3 hours you can use for the multiple choice questions, and the last hour is for the essay questions. So as a result, the multiple choice questions, because they take up about 3 of the 4 hours of the exam, they equate to about 75% of your score. And the essay questions are going to impact about 25% of your score. So that's the weighting between those two sections when your score is calculated. When you're taking the exam, remember you start with a multiple choice section. When you finish the multiple choice section and it's time to advance into the essay portion of the exam, the computer actually does a quick calculation to see how you performed on the multiple choice section. And you have to earn at least 50% on the multiple choice section in order to advance to the essay questions. If you did not earn 50%, then the exam will end for you there. There's no reason to proceed. So you do have to earn at least 50%. And then as far as the results, we do take about 6 weeks after the end of the testing month to get the results to you. And that's because the graders do have to review your essay responses. So if you test during this month in May, at the end of May, they'll take all of those exams. The graders will review them, and your results will be available in mid-July. So it's about 6 weeks after the end of May. And for tests in June, the results will be available in mid-August. Your results are emailed to you, and they're also posted in the transcript section of your IMA profile. A little bit about the exam scoring. It is a scaled score exam, which is means a lot to people who are in statistics and stuff, but it's the same way that many other highly regarded exams are scored. The maximum number of points that you can earn is 500, and a passing score is anything 360 points and higher. That's about 72%, but they say don't look at this as a straight percentage, but I know we like to think in percents, right? So it's about 72%. So the exam scores are in 10-point increments. So 360 is passing, 370, 380, and 350 is not passing. So it's only in 10-point, the scores are all in 10-point increments. If you pass the exam, you start preparing for the next exam, or if you've passed both parts, you complete the certification process requirements. If you don't pass, I recommend that you create a strategy to retake the exam as soon as possible. Now, Prometric does send a performance report about 2 weeks after the exam if you did not pass the exam. They don't send it if you did pass, just for people who do not pass. But this report is very, very basic. It only shows things like, yes, you were satisfactory on the budgeting section, you were unsatisfactory on the cost management, or you were marginal, you were okay on, you were so-so on the external financial reporting, for example. It doesn't provide you with very much information. So I don't recommend that you wait for that report. Get back to studying. You'll know where your strengths and weaknesses are better than anybody. Once you've passed the 2 exam parts, make sure that IMA has your educational requirement documentation on file. This is even something you can do before you pass the 2 exam parts. You can already submit it to IMA. There's also a work experience verification form on the IMA website. If you have already fulfilled the work experience, you can submit that now. If you're early in your career, though, and you don't have the work experience yet, then you do have up to 7 years to fulfill the work experience requirement. So and you do have to fulfill that in order to call yourself a CMA. But in the meantime, you can say that I've passed the CMA exam and I'm waiting on my work experience requirement to fulfill that. If you pass the exams, fulfill the education and work experience requirements, then you'll receive your CMA certificate number once everything has been verified. And we usually can say you can get it within 2 to 3 weeks. I know with COVID, everything has been impacted, but we try to get that CMA certificate mailed to you as soon as possible. And once you've fulfilled all of those things, received your certificate, you are now a CMA. You can use it after your name. And remember, by becoming a CMA, you've made a commitment to lifelong learning, and you do have an annual continuing professional education requirement, or CPE requirement, and it will start the calendar year after you pass both exams. So let's say you pass part 1 and part 2 in this year, 2021. You don't have any continuing professional education or CPE requirement this year. Your requirement will start next year in 2022. So I wish you the best of luck on the CMA exam. And at this time, I wanted to ask if you have any questions.
Thank you very much, Lisa, for your very, very useful tips. If I were a smart train student, I would feel like I'm so ready for the exam. I can take it tomorrow. And I do hope that our participants today will have the same idea with me.
I see a question from Buy. How do I earn the CPE credits? Are there any free courses for CPE because the CMA annual fee is already costly? We do have a lot of free courses from IMA. With your membership, you'll have access to more than enough courses and webinars to fulfill your annual CPE credits, including the 2 hours of ethics training that you need to have each year to maintain your CMA. So we have all different types of courses that are free to our members. And the webinars also that you will be able to take. So that should fulfill your CPE requirements. Let's see. IMA has a testing center in Hanoi. I believe so. If you can, my host, and Ryan, maybe you can answer that. I see you unmuting, but I can't hear you, so I'll let you speak.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. This is Ryan from IMA. So maybe I can share with some information. At this time, we have a Prometric Center in Ho Chi Minh City, and in Hanoi, we don't have it yet. We have plans to. We are working with Prometric actually to set up one, and we are already in very advanced talks with them. But however, due to the pandemic, this setup has been slowed down at this time. So we hope that sometime later this year or early next year, we will see it being set up in Hanoi. So that's the latest update at this moment. Hope that helps. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ryan. And I can hear you now, Ryan.
Okay.
So, it was something, I don't know why, because we had no problem with audio earlier.
Could you hear Miss Feng? Or just me?
No, I hear you, but I see she's muted.
I just unmute myself.
Here.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right,
yeah.
that's great.
Oh, I'm so sorry. We had no problems when we were testing. It's crazy. Should I just go through the questions, or do you want to ask me?
Okay, so let's back to the original plan. Let me ask you, because I have arranged the questions in orders. So now we will start with the questions for those who are about to take CMA program. The first one is about Dũng. He graduated from Hanoi Law University. That means he has background in law, and he has been working as a lawyer in Vietnam. So now he would like to take the CMA program. So he is asking if he is qualified to become a CMA.
So that's an interesting question. So first of all, I saw the question too, and he was asking if he's qualified to apply for the CMA exam. Mm-hmm. Anybody can take the CMA exam and sit for the exam. However, I want to explain a few things. The exam is very, it's very rigorous, very challenging on both accounting and finance topics. So with a law degree, I'm assuming that you probably haven't studied much accounting or finance. So it's really important to have a strong foundational understanding of the accounting and finance topics when you're studying for the CMA exam. So without knowing more about the background of this person, it's difficult for me to say whether they would be successful. They may need some additional preparation with accounting and finance content in order to be successful on the exam. And so the university degree, the education requirement should not be an issue because we look for a degree in any field, so a bachelor's degree in any topic, on any area. However, the experience requirement, what I would ask this person is, if you intend to still practice law, then the CMA is not for you, because remember, you do have to have 2 years of professional work experience in the accounting and financial management area. So that would be difficult if you're practicing as a lawyer then to earn the CMA, because you wouldn't be able to fulfill the work experience. So I know it's not a yes or no question. If this person is planning to change careers and go into accounting and finance, get the work experience, also do some additional studying with finance and accounting, then yes, the CMA could work for them. However, if they plan to stay in law, it probably is not the best fit.
Okay, so I see 2 participants just raised their hand. Now, can I ask Linh Nguyễn, can you unmute and send your question directly to Lisa, please?
Yes, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Oh, hi, Lisa. I have a question for you. So I'm already an MBA. I'm currently working for Deloitte in Vietnam. I almost get my Vietnam CPA. So the question is, should I get a CMA?
So again, it's a personal choice. I will tell you that I know many people who hold both the CPA and the CMA. And what they tell me is that the certifications are very complementary. The CPA provides you with knowledge about compliance related issues, regulatory issues, taxes, internal controls, and making sure that the company's external financial statements are audit ready, right? That they're following all of the guidelines. The CMA, though, is focusing more on the support of strategy within the company. So it focuses very much on the internal aspects of a company or organization, how they are growing, how they are creating value for the organization. So these can be very complementary certifications. And I know when I speak to people who work in public accounting and they have both the CMA and the CPA, they say, you know what, this not only provides me with a different insights when I'm working with clients, but it differentiates me in public accounting, because everybody has the CPA in public accounting, but not everybody has a CPA and a CMA. And I hear from some people, they'll say, I get called on because they think I'm the costing expert because I'm a CMA, or I get some special assignments because I have the CMA in addition to the CPA.
Right.
So it can provide that type of benefit to differentiate you.
Oh, thank you so lot. It's helped me a lot. Thank you so much. Thank you for
You're welcome. Thank you.
Information.
Thanks, Linh, for your questions. We have another one. Can I ask Mai? Mai, can you speak your question?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Okay. Hello, Lisa.
Hello.
So I'm from Vietnam. I'm 3, and I have a question because so I looked through the requirements of to get the certificate. Like beside getting 2 parts, then also that the bachelor is mandatory. Actually, I went to college and I don't have the bachelor. I have a certificate when I graduate the college, and also I have like more than 4 years already working as an accountant, and I have a certificate in Vietnam for chief accountant as well. And I still not able to get the certificate, which is it's not the requirement is not so convince me, you know. And I'm not sure if is there any chance or exceptions or something, or you can explain why that we have that requirement.
Yeah, so the CMA is an advanced professional certification, and we do have the education requirement, which is a bachelor's degree from an accredited college or university. It's very similar to the education requirement for other highly regarded certifications. I don't know exactly, so you have some different certificates, but not the bachelor's degree is what you're saying?
So what I learned, my major in college is also accounting. And also I have experience in accounting. I have also Vietnamese chief accountant certificate. And I still, when reading the requirement, then I think that I am not satisfy all the requirement, because it's the bachelor is needed.
So it is required. Ryan, I know you work with the Vietnamese market a lot. Do you have, I don't believe we have any exceptions available beyond the bachelor's degree. Is that correct?
Officially we don't, because that is the official entry requirements to the CMA program. So exceptions there are from time to time, but will be very, very difficult for us to assess during this webinar. So one way is perhaps you can look for the Smart Train representatives, and they will be able to work with you to see what they can do in terms of submitting a possible application to IMA headquarters admissions team.
Okay.
Yeah, and if there's a need to, Smart Train will also can also work with me, and I will see what I can do. So there's a bit of a process there that maybe even a resume may be needed as part of the possible application.
Yeah, I was thinking if there is any way, like I might have an email or something for if I pass 2 parts, and then I can send an email about this, or I can work directly with Smart Train, yes? And then they can work with you guys.
I would recommend that you work directly with Smart Train. They will also know the process, and I can be on hand to help with that through them.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I do want to say though, it probably is not very likely. So I don't want to get your hopes up. I don't think it's very likely, but we can certainly try. But I do want to say that the CMA exam, we do allow people to sit for the exam before they earn their bachelor's degree. So if you have any plan bachelor's degree in the future, you could sit exam, and then you have 7 years after you pass to fulfill that education requirement. So if it is something you're thinking about for the future, to first degree, that could help.
Yeah, actually, this just questions from my information, because actually at the end, what is the most important is the knowledge that I get from the course. So yeah, but I just wanna, it's a cherry on top if you pass it, and then you don't.
Sure, you want to.
And you don't get Yeah.
Very specific case, and we would recommend you, as Ryan and Lisa already recommend, please work with a smart train so that we can support you along the way. We kind of run out of time now. We are 15 minutes behind this, but we have so many people waiting in the queue, and thank you, Mike. So we look forward to seeing you again in Smart Train Ho Chi Minh City. And now I would like to invite Tu. I have seen him sending questions and waiting for too long. So maybe we come to another questions. Sorry, everyone, that we are 15 minutes behind, but we have so many questions waiting. So I recommend that we stay for another 10 minutes. Is it okay for everyone?
I'll stay on as long as there are questions.
Oh, you are awesome. Tu, are you ready to make questions?
Yes. Can you hear me, Lisa?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, so similar to the question about the requirement for the CMA. So right now my field is I'm working for the management consulting field. It's not like accounting and finance specialized, but it's quite related, and we do work with finance data to advise our clients. So
okay.
Would it experience be counted like qualify for the CMA certificate?
Yeah, so again, this is a very specific situation too. So what I would recommend is that we review your work experience specifically on its own. So if you have a document that shows a description of your job, what you could do is, Ryan, could you type your email into the chat? And I think what would be best is for Tu to send you that, and then we could send it on to our certification team. Because I can tell you that they're looking to fulfill that work experience. The way you do that is to hold a job for 2 years, right? And you have to be regularly applying accounting and financial management concepts on your job on a regular basis, yes. Right? So usually you are working in the finance or accounting team. However, we do also have, sometimes people are working in information technology, but they're implementing an accounting system and they have to understand accounting, and that might work. So we'd have to really look at your job description to see if there is enough accounting. Are you providing consulting related to accounting and finance?
Yes. So I usually work with the accounting and finance department from the client. And I did some data analysis and present the result to the client board of directors. So
it sounds like it could very well satisfy the requirement, but just to make sure, if you could send a job description, I'll actually put my email in the chat.
I've put my email in the chat as well. So
did you, Ryan? I didn't see it. Okay.
Yes, I didn't write to everyone. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. So actually, it'd probably be better to go to Ryan because he handles Southeast Asia. So Ryan, we would just send that to somebody in ICMA. We have somebody who reviews that and can give a definite determination. Yes, this will qualify, or if it doesn't, it doesn't. But it sounds pretty likely too that it would qualify because of the nature of your consulting. But let's look at a job description and determine for sure. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Just write to me, and I will be able to find out more. The one other way I can point out is that Lisa mentioned that in the IMA website you can access to the handbook, the CMA handbook, and inside the handbook there's actually a section that talks a lot more about the job, about the qualifications in terms of the work experiences, and that could also give quite a good idea of whether whatever job roles that you are holding qualifies or not. but feel free to write to me. I've sent you the email, so we'll talk from there.
Yes, okay.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. And now let's move to the next questions. I still got another lady in the line. I would like to invite Nga. Are you ready to ask your questions?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I have a question for you, Lisa. Now, can you recommend for me about some recommendation about the short you as a best practice for CMA exam? Because I know there's a lot short about CMA test, like claim, Wiley, or hook. But you can recommend for me about the best practice. Short practice.
So a recommendation about which materials are the best?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't, there isn't one that is the best. Gleim materials are good, Wiley materials are good, Hawk has good materials. There's also Becker and Surgeon. So these are all good materials. What I recommend is that you go to their websites, and some of them even allow you to have a free demo for 2 weeks or 10 days or something like that. And I know, the Wiley materials are materials that we use, Smart Train uses, and they're being used around the world by our partners. So, we think that they're very good materials. There are other materials out there as well, but I recommend that, you use one of those big name materials, but Wiley is one of the really good ones. And of course there are other options out there, but Wiley has a very thorough package as well.
Okay.
Thanks for your thanks for your advice. Thank you, Nga. Do you have another question?
No. Okay.
Okay, thanks, Nga. We still got some others in line. I'd like to invite Hương. Are you there? Are you ready to make the question?
Yes, I'm here.
Lisa?
Hello.
Hello, Lisa, Ryan. Thank you for the sharing today. I have 2 questions. One's the first question. I just wondering that I'm learning ACCA and I want to get your advice. Should I pursue in CMA? Because I see ACCA very. I see that the knowledge also broad already. Do you have any advice for me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Is your question about ACCA versus CMA?
No, because now I am in progress with ACCA training, and I just wondering. Last time I also registered for CMA, but I just wondering, should I pursue in CMA exam on certificate?
Yeah, so I don't know your career goals or your educational background or experience, so it's hard for me. I don't like to tell people that CMA is for everybody. It's for people who want to pursue a career in accounting and financial management, working inside of different companies or organizations where you can support the creation of value and the advancement of the organization's strategy. So the CMA is very broad-based. It's an advanced professional certification. It's been around for almost 50 years. We have tens of thousands of CMAs around the world working in companies and organizations in all different sizes. So I think it's for you, you probably really just want to do some more research to determine if it's the right fit for you.
Okay, thanks. My question, the second one is that if I register for the exam in July, for example, but that COVID in Vietnam or in Hanoi now so serious. So in the case that in July it's not convenient or it's not possible for me to travel to Ho Chi Minh City to take the exam, so how can I postpone the exam, or I can cancel that to maintain the fee?
Yeah, so we realize that there are challenges with COVID, and our customer service team can work with you if there are specific challenges that you're facing. We try to be very reasonable. Of course, it's difficult if somebody just says, I'm not ready, and they want to cancel their exam. But if a testing center isn't open, or if COVID isn't allowing you to travel, we just would ask that you contact IMA as soon as possible, and we will do our best to work with you to find a solution.
So we have to write a letter to CMA to explain to you, or can we send
well,
if
you need
directly?
if you need to change your exam, yes, you need to email. You need to be in touch probably with Ryan first, and he can get you in touch with the right person, so that we can make the adjustments that you need.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for the explanation. Okay, I'm finished my question.
Thank you.
You're on mute.
Okay, thanks Hương for your questions. We are quite behind the schedule now. We are like 25 minutes late. That reminds me of a favorite song. So that's why we got the only time for the last direct questions. And I see someone is waiting. Du is waiting. So now it's your last questions. For everyone else, if you still have questions unanswered, please write to us, and then we will send your question to Lisa and Brian later and send back the answer to you. So now, Du, please go ahead.
Yes, hi, Lisa. Thank you very much for your sharing. And I'm a background in commercial banking. And also I will take the CMA very soon, but I just want to ask you, is there any limitation for the times of failing the exam?
First of all, I want you to be a little more positive. Have a more positive outlook.
Thank you.
No, so here's how it works. You join IMA, right, as a member, and then the next step, perhaps you've already become a CMA candidate. You've paid the $250 entrance fee. When you enter the CMA program, you have 3 years to pass the 2 exam parts. So you can take the exam as many times as you want during the 3 years. There is not a limitation as to how many times you take an exam. You have the 3 years instead is the limitation. However, it will get expensive if you take it a lot of times, right? So you want to prepare as much as possible. Keep in mind the tips that I gave today on how to manage your time during the exam, and you'll be successful. But there is no limitation on the number of times. Instead, it's the 3 years that is the time frame for completing the 2 exams.
Yeah, so to clarify it, if I start my part 1 on January this year, then the maximum time I can finish both is December 3 years later, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Lisa.
You're welcome. And good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm sure that Lisa don't want to see you in taking the exam so many times.
No, I don't want her to take it that many times. You get very discouraged.
Yeah, that's right. That's why Lisa has hosted a very, very useful section today. And I'm sure that all of our students in Vietnam will benefit a lot from the section today. This is the last questions that I received in the chat box. And before that, you are free to go and start a new day. That is the questions about background. Do I need an accounting background to enroll in the CMA program?
So that's similar to the response that I gave to the person who said they are working in law. Mm-hmm. You can join IMA and enter the CMA program with any background. Sometimes we find that people that studied something other than accounting or engineering or math or liberal arts, that they find that accounting and finance is a good fit for them. So we don't turn IMA members, they can become CMAs. However, if you haven't studied the accounting and finance as in depth as you would at the university level, you probably will need some dish time and training spent before you commit to the CMA. So I would recommend that you do some additional studying in those topics so that you feel comfortable with the difficulty that would be on the CMA. You certainly, but you just might need some additional study time devoted to accounting and finance topics.
Okay, thanks for the questions. It is clearly that the CMA program is well suited to meet the industry needs, and that's why it is here told to succeed in the exam. But as just what you shared, it is not difficult if we got the right strategy. And I'm sure that by working with an experienced and knowledgeable course provider, the students can also significantly increase their chances of the exam success. And that's why in our 11 years working in Vietnam, Smart Train has supported hundreds of CMA students succeed in their programs. And I'm sure that after the session tonight, they will have many other tens of students, can complete the exams within this year. I still have some more questions running in the chat box, but maybe it's too late now, and I will collect all of the questions and send to you later. And to our participant today, please, if you do not have the question now, or you can raise some other questions later, please do not hesitate to contact Smart Train representative at any time. And Lisa and Ryan, thank you very much for your time today. And we look forward to welcoming you in Vietnam very soon after the pandemic is controlled.
Great. Thank you so much, everybody. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good evening. Thank you.
Xin cảm ơn tất cả các anh chị đã đến tham gia buổi hội thảo trực tuyến ngày hôm nay. Và mặc dù là chúng ta đã quá 30 phút so với thời gian dự kiến, nhưng mà chúng tôi vẫn còn nhìn thấy rất là nhiều người tham gia và cũng nhận được rất là nhiều câu hỏi. Nếu các chị có câu hỏi nào chưa được giải đáp thì xin hãy liên lạc với các đại diện của Smart Train bằng email hoặc là điện thoại, thì chúng tôi sẽ tiếp tục trả lời những câu hỏi của các anh chị. Và chúng tôi chúc là các anh chị sẽ có những kỳ thi đạt kết quả tốt và thành công rực rỡ. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại.